Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Max with BuzzTox here, and I am back with a review and initial reaction to Westworld Season 4, Episode 3. And I have to say, this episode was unreal. I was on the edge of my seat the whole time, and honestly, the hour flew by. I was completely engaged in every single scene in this episode. And in my opinion, I feel like it really brought back the intrigue and the interest I have with the franchise. It brought back that mystery, but it's intelligent enough to justify talking about it and trying to understand it and trying to predict what's going to happen next. Classic Westworld. While this episode had a lot of payoffs and fulfillment, it also set up a lot of things that they're going to be paying off down the line. And I also, on top of everything, we got some hints at what's to come even outside of this season, it felt like. So overall, I was thoroughly impressed with this episode. But for starters, I want to begin with Bernard. And we see that he finally made it to the Valley Beyond. And I predicted or thought that the Valley Beyond would essentially become a utopia. And we don't really know or comprehend what form that will take. But according to the showrunners, it essentially becomes a gateway to any life that anyone could want. It's essentially a heaven. It's a place where they can create many, many worlds, because in terms of time, a millennia in the Valley Beyond is like a year in the regular world. So what these hosts are doing are breaking their loops by jumping into different worlds, experiencing different things, and finding who they are. So there's a combination of that, where Bernard is also learning about how many situations will lead to the survival of humanity and the world, and there isn't many. And it seems like Bernard has every situation in his head. And now that he's back in the real world, it's his job to dictate the only path that will lead to the world being safe. But in order for that to happen, Bernard made a choice to leave the Valley Beyond and sacrifice his own life to save the world. So there is no situation here, it seemed like, where Bernard lives and the world is saved. They also made an interesting hint at Bernard that I noticed. In Season 2, Bernard scrambled his memories, and he was confused, and we watched Bernard discover his own maze. Just like Delores, having Arnold speak to her and later entered the center of her own maze and became conscious and realized Arnold's voice was her voice, Bernard did the same thing, hearing Ford's voice and discovered it was his own. But he scrambled his memories, and we haven't really had a payoff since. But in this scene with Akecheta, it was so nice to see him back, Akecheta was puzzled that Bernard kept living in his tight loops. We see Bernard's son, Charlie, in his house, and Bernard is clearly still fixated on his life as Arnold that had been embedded to him by Ford, showing that he's truly not as free as we thought, because he's still stuck tightly to his loops. Maybe this is hinting that Bernard is not truly conscious, and maybe it's hinting at we may get a return of Ford. But then Bernard wakes up and we see that he is sharp as a tack. He knows the shovel is outside next to the door. He knows everything. He knows what Stubbs is going to order for breakfast. He knows how everything needs to unfold for the world to be saved. So he kills 2 imposter hosts because they are trying to get in to this secret organization that uses the maze potentially as their calling card. This woman seems to be Caleb's daughter. I feel like we're getting an origin story of Caleb's daughter in this episode as well. So with Bernard's storyline, it's going to be interesting to see how far in the future they actually are. Because to me, it seems like they're in a future where the hosts are much, much stronger and the humans are definitely the minority. And Bernard is going to have to work with them to keep them safe. But then there's Caleb and Maeve's storyline. And this also was insane. It was great too because I think it had an element of predictability where I thought I knew what was going to happen. Like the robbery. We see Delores. We see another version of Hector. We see the robbery. We see a lot of repeated storylines with a twist. Because I kept thinking that these hosts, quote unquote hosts that are in the park, are actually controlled humans by the Fly. And when they made it in that facility and Maeve couldn't see anything on the technology, I really thought I was going to be proven right. And then to find out that the Delores uprising was a part of the story. I thought that was a very interesting touch. But then I love the payoff at the end where we see the larvae and the parasites and we get more of a deep dive on how they're manipulating these humans. They're essentially using flies to embed larvae and parasites that is manipulating the brain, I guess. They're also using this noise that Caleb can't seem to hear, but Maeve can. And this is manipulating the humans to do their bidding. I thought it was a very powerful scene to see these humans use building blocks and then kill themselves after. And even though I knew Caleb's daughter wasn't going to die, it was still a very tense scene. He acted amazing in it. But then the Man in Black came and we saw a standoff between him and Maeve. That also I was a big fan of. And then to top everything off in this episode, we have the twist, where I didn't even see it coming. Even though it was in the trailer, where Caleb's daughter's face opens up because she's just a host, and the flies infect Caleb because Charlotte wants Caleb. Why? Because he's an outlier. I did not expect that to happen. And now it looks like they're going to be using Caleb as a part of this new park, as a part of this game. And I think it will further prove, hopefully, my theory that these hosts that are walking through the park aren't hosts. They are humans. And it is an experiment that is being run by Charlotte and William. So all in all, wow. Thoroughly impressed. That was an amazing episode. I can't say enough good things about it. But with that being said, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Did you like this episode, and where do you think the next episode is going? But until next time, I'll see you guys later.